Hey fellow crafters, it's Amanda here again. I hope you've been keeping up with me at craftersautonomous.com and also on YouTube. And if you have been watching my videos, by now you know how, as far as my crochet videos go, you know how to crochet some basic stitches and you also know how to work up multiple rows. So you've probably seen these little squares before, and if you've been to my blog, you've found this pattern for a crochet hot pad using the stitches I've shown you. But what you might be wondering at this point is, everything we've made so far kind of has a square or rectangular shape, where we work across, come up, work across, come up, and we just work back and forth in rows. You might be wondering, how do we make something like a hat? Because a hat, you can't really, this kind of down here kind of looks like you're coming up and working across, but it's a very different shape. It's 3D, and it's not at all looks like a rectangle, because if you just fold a rectangle in half and make it into a hat, you're going to end up with kind of a weird looking hat with kind of corners. So how do we get this nice rounded shape on these hats? And the solution is to, instead of working with a foundation chain and then building up rows and working back across, we do what's called working in the round. And basically that means you're going to be crocheting in circles. There's lots of different methods and variations. Sometimes you work in a spiral and keep coming out, so you don't actually have technical rows, or you can work in rows, which is how I've made these hats here. If you look at the top, we start in the center here, and we do a row, go around, come up, do a row, come up, do a row, come up, and you keep working in rows across, but these are round rows where instead of you getting to the end and you turn, these rows are circles that connect. So that's a couple differences between crocheting something that's square or rectangular versus working in the round. So that's what I'm going to teach you how to do today, how to work in the round. There's lots of, like I said, there's lots of variations, and if you're following a pattern, the pattern will tell you whether you're going to be working in the round, whether you'll be working a spiral, whether you'll have rows, and they'll also give a suggested way of how to start. Because to work, you know how when we work something that's square or rectangular, we have a chain that we start with and then we work across. Well, we're going to have to start with some kind of chain or some kind of circle that we can work in to make the first row. And there's lots of different ways to do that. And I'm going to show you an easy way that is one of my favorite ways, but I can also do videos later on showing some different methods. And also it's kind of funny because when I first started crocheting, I knew how to work squares and rectangles, and I had made a couple scarves, but I wanted to try making a hat. And it was kind of funny because I pretty much just made up what I was doing. I didn't really know how to work in the round, but it's funny because what I did then is kind of similar to what I found it is actually the correct way to work in the round. But this way will turn out much better than my first attempt at working in the round, because that hat was a little iffy looking. But you'll get nice consistent hats if you follow my methods. So let's get started. So to start, we're going to start just like we do normally. We're going to start with a slip knot right there, and if you're not sure how to do a slip knot, you can go watch my intro to crochet plus the chain video and you can learn how to do that there. And so we're going to start with a slip knot on our hook. And the way I like to start working in the round is I like to leave a bit of a tail on the end here, and I'll explain that in a moment. But we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to kind of have the chain to the left of us, and we want to turn this into a circle, because once you have a circle, we can work in the center of the circle to start going around. And so we're going to do what's called a slip stitch. A slip stitch is pretty easy. And what you're going to start by doing is you're going to skip this chain and skip that chain and go to the third chain from the hook. And you're going to insert the hook right there. Yarn over. And this might look like we're about to do a single crochet, but instead of pulling it through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, we're just going to yarn over and pull through everything. And that's called a slip stitch. So now what we have here is we have this little ring made out of the chain stitches, and we've got the little tail here. So we're going to do this one with a double crochet. So we're going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do 10 double crochet around. We're going to let this chain 3 count as our first double crochet. So I'm going to do a double crochet by yarning over, and instead of inserting the hook in the chains themselves, we're going to insert in the same center spot every single time. And remember this tail that I mentioned earlier? We're going to work around this tail. So just kind of keep the tail behind you and insert in the center there and finish your double crochet stitch. So what we've got so far is we've got this chain 3 that counts, this turning chain that counts as our first double crochet, and then we've done a double crochet into the center of this whole piece here, and you can kind of see that this tail end is coming from underneath there. And now what we're going to do, it's pretty simple. You just finish going around. So since we're doing 10 to go around, I'm just going to finish double crocheting. And notice that every time I do a double crochet stitch, I'm going into the same center. They all have the same spot that they're going into. We don't actually insert it into the chain part of the little ring we made. We work in the very center of the ring. So let me finish off this row. I need to do 6 more stitches. Okay, and here I am finishing up my 10th stitch. We'll go ahead and count to make sure. I even still count sometimes, because especially in the round it helps if you count. And stitch counters might come in hand, might be helpful when you're working in the round. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I need to do one more. I miscounted. This is why you count. And 10. So what we've got right now is we've kind of had this, it's not quite a circle yet, it's kind of a weird shape, but we've got stitches all worked in the same spot, and you can see that because we're working in the same spot, they started to curve around. So to go ahead and finish off this row, what we're going to do is we're going to do another slip stitch in the chain from the preceding round. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. This is the top right here of the chain. We're going to insert the hook here, and we're going to do a slip stitch, which means we yarn over and we pull it through everything and pull it tight. So now you can see that it's kind of created this round shape, and if you look on the edge here, you'll see the tops. Those are like the V's at the top of our stitches. And you may still be wondering about this tail end that we worked around. The point of the tail end is right now you can see that there's kind of a little bit of a gap, because when we made the ring with the chain stitches, it wasn't pulled tight. But what we can do is we can take this little guy, and I've got him holding here, and I'm going to just cinch it up, and that creates a nice tight center instead of having a hole there. And then if you come to the back, you can finish, you can weave this end under a couple times, or you can go ahead and tie it off so it doesn't loosen. Just fasten it off so it stays secure. And there you go, now you've worked in the round. So if we wanted to do another round, we're going to, instead of turning our work, we're going to keep the work facing the same way. Since we're doing double crochet, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, if my hand doesn't load. And now we are going to work in the stitches from the previous round. But when you work, if I were to do one stitch in each of the stitches from the previous round, we would end up with kind of a cone. We'd have a base here and then a cone that would come up. But we want to try to make a flat circle. So instead of doing one stitch in every one from the preceding round, we're going to do twice as many this round. So I'm going to do, the chain counts as my first stitch, so I need to do a second one in the same spot. So yarn over and double crochet. And so our next stitch is right here, and we're going to work 2 double crochet in this stitch. So 1, and instead of inserting here, I'm going to insert in the same spot as last time. So 2. So since we did 10 stitches to go around for the first row, if we do twice as many in the second row, we're going to have 20. So let me finish this row. Okay, so I'm not quite sure if I've come all the way around. It can be a little tricky when you get right here towards the end to tell if you've already worked on the spots or if you need to also work in this spot here. So if you can't tell, just very simple, just count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20. And that's exactly how many I want. So now that I'm at the end, to hold these together, I'm going to insert my hook in the top of the chain 3 that I started this round with, insert, and slip stitch by pulling it through everything. And just cinch it up, and there you go. Now we have a nice circle shape forming. And so the idea is when you work each round, you're going to start by chaining 3, and the way it works is in your first round, you're going to crochet how many stitches they tell you to. Then in your second round, you're going to do 2 stitches in all the preceding stitches. So if this is 10, this one's going to have 20. Now for each row that you come up, instead of doing 2 in every stitch, you're going to do 2 and then 1, 2 and then 1, 2 and then 1. And you'd come back around and you get to 30 stitches. Then for your fourth round, you're going to do 2 double crochet, and then a single double crochet, and a single double crochet, 2 double crochet, a single double crochet, and a single double crochet, going around. And when I say do 2 double crochet, I mean work in the same spot. So for this round, we would do 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet here, 1 double crochet, like that. Fourth round, we would do 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet. So can you guess what we're going to do on the 5th round? Okay, you've got it. The pattern is going to keep following like this, where we'll do 2 double crochet, and then we'll have 3 that are just double crochet. The 6th round we would do 2 double crochet, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 that each just have 1 double crochet. And I'll go ahead and I'll write up a pattern to give the basic idea. That'll be on my blog when I post this video. So if you're still not quite sure what I mean by that, and you're not quite understanding how the pattern works, you can look there. But that is the basics of how to work in the round with crochet. So there you have it. Now you know how to crochet in the round. And here's the little circle that I was working on that you can easily make too if you follow this tutorial. You'll also notice that I weaved in the ends, woven the ends, whatever the correct word would be. And if you're not sure how to do that, you can watch my video how to finish off a crochet project, and that'll tell you how to hide those pesky little ends. But I also want to mention that if you look at this one, this is a circle, and this is great for things like hats, because hats kind of have a circle shape and you just kind of bring it down kind of like a dome. But you can also work in the round for things called granny squares. These are so much fun. You can make blankets, pillows, all kinds of things out of them. And the reason you need to know how to work in the round for these is because you work each round, well, in the round, and you go around, and you do certain methods to make it have corners so it's a square instead of being round like this. So working in the round has a lot of great potential. There's all kinds of things you can make from it. And I want to also, hopefully soon, I'll get some different hat patterns and granny square patterns up on my blog. So hopefully if you guys follow me, you can go check those out. But until next time, keep practicing and happy crafting! And now for a live hat fashion show with a live studio audience! Now let's look at our next style.